Today, we're tackling AI workflows, specifically how to build them so they actually work and deliver real results.
So let me ask you something. Have you been tinkering with tools like ChatGPT, but you kind of feel like you're just spinning your wheels? If so, you are definitely not alone. It's this super common frustration, right? You put in all this effort, but you're just not seeing a real payoff. Well, it turns out there's this one huge mistake that almost everyone makes. It's a massive trap that causes all these great ideas to just fizzle out. But the good news, once you see it, it's actually pretty easy to avoid.
So how do we steer clear of that trap? Well, it all starts with understanding this critical mistake, something we're going to call the how trap.
We've all been there. You see some incredible new AI tool, and your brain immediately jumps to, whoa, how can I use this? But that right there is the mistake. We're getting so excited about the tech that we're skipping straight to the last step without building any kind of foundation. So check this out. This is a much smarter path forward. Instead of starting with how, you start all the way at the top with why. Why is this even important? Then you define what success actually looks like. You think about the risks, the what-ifs. And only then, after you've laid all that groundwork, do you finally get to the how. Okay, so let's zoom out a little and see how this idea fits into the bigger picture. We're talking about a blueprint for getting a real return on your investment in AI.
Okay, so the first major hurdle is what people call FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's that voice in your head asking, what does AI mean for my job? The only way to combat that feeling isn't to ignore it, but to face it head-on with literacy, learning how to think strategically about these tools and where they really fit.
Next up, the endless hype cycle. I mean, it feels like every week there's a new game-changing tool that promises to solve everything. But honestly, it's mostly just a distraction. The real solution is to find leverage, to ignore all that noise and focus on one concrete, valuable workflow that actually makes your life easier.
And finally, we've got the all-too-common problem of failed projects. To keep your big ideas from just fizzling out, the focus has to be on adoption. It doesn't matter how brilliant a tool is if your team can't or won't actually use it in their daily work.
And look, this isn't just a theory. A recent MIT study found that a staggering 95% of corporate GenAI projects fail. And they often fail because they get tripped up on these exact issues: fear, hype, and no real adoption. So how do you make sure you end up in the successful 5%?
Well, to put these solutions into practice, you really need a new way of thinking. You need some new mental models, or what we can call AI first principles.
Think of these 6 principles as your guideposts. They cover everything from act last, which is our old friend the how trap, to remembering that AI isn't magic. But let's zoom in on one of the most critical ones for ensuring you get quality results.
And that is the 10-80-10 rule. It's such a brilliant, simple structure for quality control. A human provides the initial 10%, the input and direction. Then the AI does 80% of the heavy lifting. And, this is the crucial part, a human always comes back in for that final 10% to review, edit, and verify the output. It keeps a human in the loop, which is key.
Okay, so with those principles in mind, let's get really practical. How do you actually sit down and plan your very first AI-powered workflow? It really just comes down to these 3 simple steps. First, you define the problem you're trying to solve. Think of it as a job to be done. Second, you outline the exact process you use right now, step by step. And third, you just go through that list and decide which steps need a human and which ones can be handled by an AI.
You know, the really crucial point here is that just the act of documenting your process is incredibly valuable all by itself. So much of what we do is just this tribal knowledge that's stuck in people's heads. Getting it down on paper is the essential first step toward any kind of effective automation. And once you have that documented plan, you've laid the foundation for true, meaningful automation.
Here's a great way to think about it. You're not just creating some boring checklist. You are literally writing the job description and the instruction manual for a new AI team member that's going to work right alongside you.
So by avoiding that how trap, focusing on a clear strategy, and actually documenting your process, you can finally move beyond just experimenting with AI and start building workflows that create real, tangible value. The only question left is, what's the first job you'll give them?